MCCTV is largely about what happens in the classrooms here at Metropolitan Community College. Our mission, to inform you about all the educational opportunities the college provides. But we also chat with speakers, authors, and performers who visit our campuses. And once a quarter, we sit down with the president and CEO of the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce for a chat about the cultural, social, and economic health and development for our viewing area. Conversation ahead is about what happened in the second quarter of 2019. I'm Kent Pavelka, and David Brown joins us next on MCCTV. Well, David, welcome back. Another 3 months in the books, and we're talking about quarter number 2 of 2019.
Sure,
Did it go?
flying,
Yeah, man, no kidding. Did it go well?
Yeah, the second quarter was remarkable, really. I mean, we're so busy right now, which is what you expect, I suppose, in a city that's growing, that has all the, probably the kudos that we've been receiving of late. But there's a lot of project activity. There are really so many development projects that are happening right now that'll make a difference in the city that all you got to do is drive around, look at all the sky cranes that are around town. You can see there's a lot going on. So we're real happy right now.
Is any of this a surprise to you at this point in the year? I mean, when you look back on what was going to happen in 2019?
I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, we've had really strong backlog for several years in a row. We've blown our numbers out of the water for many, many years in a row now, particularly in terms of capital investment and jobs. And we've been involved in the vast majority of the projects that you see under construction right now. We either knew well about them or we were instrumental in trying to do something to help them happen. So none of this is a surprise. It's just that there's so much of it right now that I think there's communities that would take one of these projects that we've got, and we've got 20 that are coming out of the ground all at once. So it's a really exciting time to be here.
Maybe you can share kind of the basics of what happens at a Chamber of Commerce in terms of all this. I mean, what all you do with these during the projects?
So it depends on the project, but let's just assume that there's one that we are intimately involved with from the very beginning of the marketing process all the way to ribbon cutting. We are very aggressive about trying to find companies that either they're here already and they want to expand in this market, or we're going out and finding them somewhere else. And so we are very aggressive on the travel schedule. We have a list of targeted businesses and industries that we try and make contact with every year. And when we find one of those that is particularly interested in the market, or even if we're responding to a request for a proposal from them, our team kicks into gear and starts giving them information about this market that one would think that you could maybe find online, because it's not like the good old days when we were the only ones with the data. I mean, you can find a lot of information out today by yourself, but we try and provide clients with the best information that they can find about sites that are available, about buildings that might be available, what the labor force looks like, particularly in terms of quality and quantity, which is a big issue these days. Mm-hmm. Cost of doing business, cost of power. I mean, the whole gambit of trying to give them enough information for them to keep us in the list of communities that they're considering. And then in most cases, in all cases, it requires either travel to that client's location or those clients coming here for a visit. And then we're clearly just trying to stay on the list. I mean, what questions are they asking for? How do we provide them with information we know will respond to what their needs are? Usually that means hooking them up with a local realtor, or it's better said, hooking up with an existing site or an existing building that they choose. All of those tend then to be represented by a realtor of some sort.
Sure.
So we don't choose the real estate firm and say, go work with this company. We rather say, here's the site or building that's available. This is represented by this company, so go work with them. And then if there's incentives that have to be put in place, we help with the state incentives, local incentives to make those financial packages come together. And then if we're fortunate enough where the company says, yep, you're the site, we help with announcements, we help with all the process of getting permitting and financing and all the stuff along the way to make sure that project happens. And then if we're really good at what we do, we are not only invited to the ribbon cutting, but we're part of that ribbon cutting. And the project is announced, and they start hiring people, and they've already spent lots of money to make the projects happen. So it's just on a project's perspective. We're start to finish with most of these projects, and our team is really exceptional in putting those packages together.
Yeah, obviously this is a real competitive proposition, but how many other chambers of commerces go to the detailed lengths that you do to do the competition, to be the competition?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's about 7,000 chambers of commerce in the country, and about 25% of us have economic development as part of our agenda. So 1,500 or so chambers of commerce out there that are doing economic development work at some scale. They can be small chambers that have the economic development effort just as much as they can be a larger chamber. But I would suggest that there's probably only maybe 5% of the chambers in the country that are of our size and therefore have the budget, the capacity, the staffing, the capabilities that we have to really work with the partners that we work with every single day in utility, business, and government, in all the community and the region around us to make these deals happen.
Do you think that you need to go to those lengths because of some just inherent disadvantages, or I mean, you have to overcome some things? Is that why you work so hard at it?
We are always fighting above our weight class. So we are competing all the time with Phoenix and Austin and Indianapolis and Oklahoma City and Louisville and Salt Lake City, Nashville, Raleigh, Durham, all cities larger than us, all regions larger than us. All theoretically then they have more resources than we have.
And more potential employees.
More people that people can draw in their labor force. So we are constantly having to be better than anybody else, even those that just by their sheer size and resources should be bigger than we are. And then I think we do fight against the fact that Omaha is not as well known as some of these larger cities. So, I mean, I don't think anybody that's watching this show would not have recognized one of those other names that I gave them.
Right.
You can make the case that everybody would recognize Omaha if you said the name to them. But I would suggest that there's a larger audience that doesn't have much detail about us.
Feel for the brand.
Yeah, and so we're constantly having to be out there selling the brand more aggressively, getting people to know what really cool stuff is happening here so that they start associating those really interesting, innovative things that are happening with our brand, and therefore then it increases the chance of them doing projects here or in the talent space having a career here, coming here to work and live.
Yeah. Well, numbers, people's eyes may gloss over, but let's go over the numbers for the second quarter.
Sure. So we landed 9 projects in the second quarter, which for us means a company that is looking to expand here or a company that is looking to locate a new facility here. So that's 9 successes this year, this quarter, about $123 million worth of capital investment. That brings us over $800 million for the year so far, and our goal for the year was only $600 million. So we've already been able to hit those numbers.
Record-breaking year, you think?
It would take a lot to be a record-breaking year because the last couple were $1 billion, $2 billion plus because we had some really large projects that came into fruition. It isn't so far-fetched to think we could do it again, but we would really have to land some of these great big clients that we've got waiting in the wings to hopefully announce or to land here in the next few months. So we could do it potentially. Jobs, I think, so far this year we're at about 1,200 or so. But what's really interesting is what the pipeline looks like. We have 241 prospects in the pipeline right now. So for us, that means any company, whether it's a startup or an existing company that we've contacted or a new company looking from outside the market, that we are actively working with to give information about doing something in this market.
How's that number compare to any other time?
Well, it is probably the highest it's been in 3 or 4 years. We typically at the end of the year, I remember years when we had 180 to 190 companies in the pipeline when we started the year. I don't think we had that many starting this year, but there's many, many more that have stayed active longer. So this is a pretty robust list for us.
Yeah. And then you've got people coming to visit, site visits, business retention, expansion visits.
Yeah, site visits are important. So, first off, a lot of people have never been to Omaha, right? And so the ability to do the site selection process remotely is significantly enhanced with the technology that's out there right now. So you don't really get the visits that we used to get on every project. Now you have to be down to probably the top 2 or 3 communities that they're considering before you get a client to come visit. So it's a good sign that we've had 19 already this year, this quarter. And I think, the fall is always really busy because people remember that they want to try and get a project done before year end, and so we're either going to see clients or they're coming to see us in the third quarter. So it'll be pretty busy the rest of this year too.
Those decisions in the third and fourth quarters?
Yeah, as soon as you get into the holiday season, decisions in our business at least usually get rolled over into the next year.
So the third quarter.
The third quarter is really important to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the things that happened in the second quarter, something called Opportunities in Tech.
Yeah, so we created something that is totally responsive to customer demand. So we have, about a year ago in December, we had a meeting with about 70 tech companies in between Lincoln and Omaha. And James Blackledge with Mutual of Omaha and Mike Dunlap from Nelnet chaired the meeting. And basically it was a discussion about talent availability for tech companies. And we wanted to really hear from the customer what we had been hearing anecdotally, that they were having a greater challenge finding tech talent here than they really thought was healthy, and that they really wanted to try and figure out a way to work together to help us attract more technology talent to this market. So we had this meeting, and it was overwhelming. The response was, yes, we all need people like today. And so as part of that meeting, we kind of presented to them, well, here's what our talent attraction strategy looks like. Actually, we kind of presented our talent strategy, which has 3 basic components to it. How do we develop our own talent, that we can start working with middle schoolers or grade schoolers even, and make sure they're exposed to careers that are going to be here long term that could be great for them, and then make sure there's a pipeline for them to be developed and take that through school, whether it's community college or whether it's a 4-year degree. Attracting talent here and retaining talent here. And so we laid those three scenarios out there and kind of laid them out on a timeline. And their response to us was, that's great, except none of those are fast enough for what our needs are. We are in straits right now, which would require us to start looking at other places to find people.
What do you do about that? Or what did you decide you could do about that?
Well, we said, you know what, let's get more aggressive. So we basically took what was probably an 18-month to 2-year attraction development strategy. So we were going to have to develop a strategy for attracting new talent. And we literally just jumped in the pool. And we said, okay, we have to do something now. So we hired a company that our Senior Vice President from Economic Development, Dee Baird, had a relationship with in Iowa, who does a digital analytics-based, social media-driven recruiting strategy for tech talent. And we decided to do it in partnership with Lincoln. So the Lincoln Chamber and the Omaha Chamber have...
That's the super region, right?
The super region, yes. We've created the super region for technology between Omaha and Lincoln. And we've created a program called Opt-in. And it is all social media and online based. There's a website that people can go to where there's links with companies that are actively seeking employees. We're actively doing some very specific targeted marketing to people who have done a lot of work to try and figure out where they can find tech jobs, and we've identified those folks, and we're out there recruiting them right now from real targeted cities. So it's the first time we've done this, but it was something we had to do very, very quickly, and the companies have rallied around it. And so now we're partnering with Knights of Exarban on some workforce development work that they're involved in. We're partnering with the AIM Institute on some of the technology stuff that they're doing. Our talent pipeline people. It's a remarkable partnership that we put together to make sure that we're doing something very fast. Yeah. So we should have some numbers here. This kicked off in the first week in June. We should probably have some numbers after the third quarter that'll tell us whether or not this work that we're doing is driving numbers like we need them to these companies and to the website.
There's a new transportation strategy that the Chamber is intimately involved in. Connect Go, is that
Connect Go, yeah. So that's really the name of or the brand, if you will, for a process that we're putting in place to both receive information from folks who are interested in responding to a survey or to some questions that we're providing them, to tell us what kind of transportation amenities they want to see in this community. And that all gets overlaid on the work that's already been done by folks like MAPA and Metro Mass Transit, and by City of Omaha Public Works, and by the input the mayor got through her town hall meetings. I mean, what does this transportation network need to look like in the region for us to meet the needs of our people here? And ultimately, it comes down to this. If I can show you, if you're an unemployed individual, say in Council Bluffs, I should be able to show you a transportation methodology to get you to an employer, say in Gretna, that's looking for a second shift worker, that'll enable you to have a full-time job with benefits and get you there on time and get you home every day. I can't do that today. We just don't have the capacity, unless you have a car, to get to those jobs. And we have too many underemployed in this market to not try and do something about transportation. And then on top of that, I mean, that's solving a problem. Transportation also is one of the number one issues that young professionals and millennials tell us is a differentiator for them when it comes to what community they want to live in.
And they're not interested in the cars.
They want to have choices of where to live. And some of those choices mean I just as soon be able to hop on mass transit to get to my employer, or get to the store, or get to this fill in the blank. So Connect Go is our effort to try and get some really current information from potential customers, if you will, those residents who can tell us what they're what they want for transportation, and then put a plan in place to figure out how we're going to put together a true transportation system for this region.
That information doesn't exist already, like knowing what people want, and
there's lots of places for it, but generations change, people change. I mean, we just went through a conference where it's pretty clear that Generation Z want things differently than the millennials do, and so you got to make sure you're constantly trying to refresh that information. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt that there are studies upon studies upon studies that looked at everything from bus rapid transit, which is going to be here in the spring, to streetcars, to buses, to Uber and Lyft, to taxi cabs. I mean, there's a host of studies out there. We don't have to reinvent those studies. We just got to make sure that we overlay on top of that the demand of the marketplace, and then we can use the best information from all those studies to come up with a plan.
Can we do all that given the size of our market?
I think the answer is yes. There's examples out there of places that are our size or smaller that have done a really good job with transit. The difference is you probably don't have every bell and whistle in those smaller city transit systems.
That's what I was getting at. We might not either, right?
We might not.
Yeah.
So our job is to try and figure out how can we best serve the populace here and meet all of the needs that we have the best way we can. And I don't know how this thing ultimately will turn out, but all I know is that over the next 4 years after this year, we've committed to have a strategy in place, try and figure out a way to pay for it, and have most of that strategy, if not under construction, at least in design. So
4-year strategy.
4 years, yeah. We started in a year ago, so it was a 5-year overall strategy.
Gotcha.
But nonetheless, it's part of Prosper 2.0, and we're going to be measured against whether or not we accomplish it or not.
You had the Business Excellence Awards in May.
We did.
We had lots of categories, lots of winners. You want to go through them all, or just talk about some of the things?
You can go to our website and see who the winners were in each of these categories. I mean, it was it's really a fun event where we recognize both what we call milestone companies who have experienced 25 through 115 years of history here in this market. So they're celebrating anniversaries. And so I think last year the Chamber was 125 years old as an example. So we pat ourselves on the back and gave ourselves a milestone award. But every year there are companies that celebrate these great 5-year increments that make a difference to our community. And then we also recognize nonprofits, and we recognize small businesses and large businesses for their engagement in the community and the differences that they've made here. So it's really about excellence in operating their businesses as well as how they engage in the community.
Yeah, you go to the website, you'll see the winners and excellence in innovation, leadership, philanthropy, small business of the year.
Right.
You held the Hire Conference in August. Sold out event?
Yep. We keep trying, realizing that talent. I mean, that's where we're spending a lot of time. And so this was a conference designed for those people whose job is to recruit talent, to give them the tools that they need to recruit talent to this market.
What are those?
Well, a lot of it is just about information. Do you really know what cultural amenities that we have available? Do you really know what educational amenities we have available? Do you know about the foodie community here, or the music community here, or the ballet or the opera? I mean,
So you equip them with all this
yeah, absolutely. Our
information.
job is to give them tools, and then we also put them in front of people who are expert salespeople, recruiters, consultants who have done this all over the world, and so they can kind of get some tidbits and some tips from folks who have been really successful doing this.
And again, it comes down to a lot of competition out there.
There's a lot of competition.
Hey, congratulations. You were named the National Chair of the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executive Board of Directors.
I was.
That's a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, it's fun. It's sort of like, I feel like the dog that caught the bus. Now what do I do with it? It's a great honor. I've been involved with the association for a long time, and on their board now for the last several years. And so it's a great honor, really, to be nominated by my peers to lead this group. And I think chambers are in this really unique place these days. There is so much angst out there in the marketplace around politics, and it almost has brought the capacity of government to provide anything beyond just the basic of services, to a screeching halt. And yet there's organizations.
Because of what? Because
because conflict. I mean, you just can't get people to agree on how to do more than just the bare minimum. You can't get more resources. It's tough to inspire people to do more than what government just has to do. And then all fighting that goes on, pretty soon you don't get anything done. There was an economist at the Brookings Institute, Bruce Katz, who wrote one time that federal government right now is nothing more than an insurance company with an army. I mean, in large measure, that's about all they'll ever be able to afford to do.
Yeah.
Aside from pay the debt the interest on the debt. And then he went on to say that state government isn't exactly flush either, and they have so many issues when it comes to Medicaid and prison reform and all kinds of other things that also demand huge chunks of their time
and money.
And that most of the real work that's getting done and causing positive change to happen is happening in regions. And really in the core of most regions is a strong city that is able to get things done. And so if you think about every major city with those 7,000 chambers I mentioned earlier, there are chambers of commerce in those cities. And those chambers of commerce have existed for 50, 60, 80, 100, hundreds of years. And they've outlived elected officials. They've outlived different party strength and power. They've outlived a lot of things, and we still are here. And the business community is still here. And in many ways, the business community is being asked to lead in doing things that we have no authority to do. Much of the stuff that you talked to me about already today, the chamber only has authority to do because we've been asked to do it.
Right.
So I think chambers are in this unique situation right now where we can be the change agents in regions and in cities. We can convene really disparate groups of people who might not come to the table if it weren't for us to bring them to the table. And
it wouldn't occur to them to come to the table.
Yeah, well, in many cases, they either have been competing for many, many, many years with these other organizations, or they have been on parallel courses and might not even know the other organization exists.
Duplicate.
And so our job is to assess, convene, in many cases collaborate with organizations that might be outside the norm, and how do we then cause things to happen? And so I'm a big fan of that chambers of commerce can be catalytic leaders in our region, that we can cause change to happen, that things happen more frequently when we're doing things with other partners, that when we collaborate. And it's a message that I've been trying to deliver for several years, and I'm going to continue delivering as the chairman of this national association.
What do you hope to do when your year is up? To have done when your year is up?
Well, a lot of it is about just making sure that the information that needs to be there is in front of my peers. And I'm not exactly sure yet how to do that, except making sure that as we're doing conferences, doing board meetings, writing white papers, doing research, that it's focused on those things where I think chambers can be the most effective. I mean, I'm not running this organization day to day, so like me, when I have a volunteer chairman, I ask that chairman to be supportive and directive, and I make sure that I'm doing the things that the organization needs to be done. And that's the role I'm trying to play with ACCE. But ACCE is also a peer-to-peer network. And so I've been already utilizing that network more aggressively since July, just asking people what they're seeing that's working, what are some challenges that maybe ACCE can help them with.
Well, back to the never-ending challenge of trying to educate people about Omaha, new rankings out, and I didn't have any idea I lived in such an august zip code or area. 68114 has been named the hottest zip code in the nation.
Isn't that crazy? I think it's actually the second hottest, but still, you're
second?
Right. It is crazy to think that we have a zip code where there's more stuff going on than any other spot around the country.
Number 2, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What does that mean?
If you look at it's capital investment, I think, in those markets. It's in that zip code. It's housing sales and purchases in that space. It's building permits in that space. It's basically any activity that's happening in that, although most of it was around housing.
Check for cranes.
Yes.
Yeah, look for cranes,
Absolutely. Right? And in this town, look for orange barrels and look for orange cones and look for cranes. I mean, there's so much going on right now here that it's almost, well, it is well beyond the pale. We wouldn't necessarily have expected to see all this going on, but it all is. So we got to be enjoying it while we can.
That's great. And then the top 10 best small cities in the country that list came out.
Yeah, that came. We're in. I think we're number 9 or 7 on that list. What's really interesting is on all these lists, and there's lots of them. Who has the best dog parks? Who has the best ice cream?
Right.
Who has the best all this stuff? The ones that we seem to be continually doing really well on are any ranking that talks about a place to live where you get your biggest bang for your buck, where the value's appreciating, where you can have a career, start a career, make good money, and still have a good quality of life, where you can start up a business more easily and make more money than folks around the country. It's all about the combination of those great opportunities that are here and the relatively reasonable cost of living here. And you
standard of living, basically.
Yeah. And matter of fact, I would suggest you add the standard of living to that mix and say there's no doubt that the quality of life here is something that keeps people here. And being able to do that at a place where you can make good money and have enough money left over and time left over to spend time with your family and invest money in a house or save money for your kids' college education. It's just a really great mix of awards and recommendations that we're getting.
I always chuckle about the small city category. I mean, we got to be among the largest small cities, don't we?
Yeah, usually they go at about 1 million people.
Yeah.
is usually what they go to.
Metropolitan areas?
Metropolitan area,
So
and we're just under that. And so in the not too distant future, we'll start playing in that space from 1 million people to 5 million people. And we'll start seeing what those rankings start looking like.
Well, like you mentioned, the Phoenixes and all those communities that people know of.
Right, and we compete with them now on an economic development basis and a talent basis. But in most rankings, we're not in the same ranking list that they are. Well, as an example, Site Selection Magazine, Omaha has won the Economic Development Prize 4 out of 5 years in a row, 4 out of the last 5 years, as the best economic development organization in the country from a per capita perspective. But that's again from 200,000 to 1 million people. So pretty soon we're going to be over that 1 million thing, and then we'll start seeing where we rank up with the bigger organizations and see if we can keep winning that award that way. So it'll be interesting to see.
October 4th, Conference on Opportunity, Diversity, and Equity coming up. November 19th, Economic Outlook Luncheon, and then the holidays. Then we'll be talking about 2020. Hey, congratulations again on your appointment.
Well, and I think congratulations are in order for you too. To be admitted into the Hall of Fame, that is very remarkable and well-deserved. So we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it very much. And thank you for being with us again on MCCTV. Our goal is to better acquaint you with the mission, leadership, and reach of the college. I'm Kent Pavelka for Metropolitan Community College.